I think the audio is good. Okay, now we are live on the Metal Voice. First time. I think this is the first time, there is a Hollywood director on the Metal Voice.
Wow.
Penelope Spheeris, uh, an honorary Greek.
Well,
We
yeah.
could work on the vocabulary a little bit in the language, but yes.
Well, Penelope Andreas Spheeris is pretty Greek.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Welcome to the show. So everybody knows who this lady is. I started off Saturday Night Live, I guess, as a writer. Is that correct?
Actually, I was working with Albert Brooks producing his short films because
Mm-hmm.
Lauren Michaels called me up one day. He's a Canadian, right?
Yes.
And I knew him before Saturday Night Live, and he said, I have a really funny uh, comedian that he won't be one of the players, but he wants to make little short films, and he doesn't know how. So will you please teach him how to make films? So I did.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Then, of course, the decline of Western civilization, part one, part two, part three. We have Wayne's World. I mean, who doesn't love Wayne's World, right?
Me? No, I'm kidding.
And so many other projects. It's just countless, but those are the ones that people seem to adore and love and have done well at the box office, more or less, right?
Yeah. You know, I'm happy with the ones that did well, and the other ones I don't care about.
Okay. Tell me about, as a woman, when did you get into film school? I'm assuming you went to film school. Why did you want to be a director?
Well, I was actually going to college to study science, and I was involved with the biological sciences and human behavior sciences and that sort of thing. And then a friend of mine told me that there was a film school at UCLA, and I didn't even know back in those days, like that there was a place you could go to learn how to make movies. And so I ditched University of Irvine sciences, and I went to UCLA film program and stayed there way too long because I knew if I left, I couldn't get a job. And yeah, so yeah, UCLA master's degree in film. I have, yeah.
Wow.
No one ever asked me to see my master's degree,
Do you
but
have it? Do you have it around there? Do you
it's
pull it out
around
there?
here somewhere.
Let me ask you this: when you were in UCLA film school, what year was that, and who else that maybe became a famous director, let's say, or of the
Well,
time, or
Jimmy, I was going to UCLA at the same time that right after Jim Morrison left, by the way. Okay, so started in late 60s, and at USC was George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. Yeah, so um, that was a long time ago on a planet far away. Oh, no, sorry.
did you pass Jim Morrison in the hallway, or as he was leaving, or no?
Well, I passed the spirit of Jim Morrison in the hallway, and he blessed me with his musical know-how. And somehow
Okay.
I hooked up music and film together, and the rest is history. No, I don't know.
Who was your influence? So just so you know, if I look this way, it's just because somebody's sending me a text. I'm not ignoring you. And
Oh,
Brett says, "Who was your major directorial influence as a
my,
director?"
the, well, you know what's weird? Speaking of Greeks, because you're Greek and I'm Greek. One time, my brother Jimmy Spheeris was walking down the street in Venice, California, and he was introduced to a guy named Costa Gavras, and Costa said, "Oh my goodness, your last name is Spheeris? That's my mother's last name." And so Costa Gavras was like one of my three favorite directors, and I couldn't believe I was related to my idol. Um, and so uh, Costa's mother and my father, brother and sister. Yeah. So Costa Gavras and John Cassavetes, another Greek.
Yes. Strange. Strange.
And then Frederick Weissman, documentarian. So I have to include the Jewish community as well.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Um, when you were going to school and learning about film, how many other women were in the class?
Oof. Um, in my class in the early 70s, it was Chick Strand, Donna Deach. Shirley Clark was actually teaching there. She's a great filmmaker and actress. I'm going to say probably three, you know.
Was California more of a relaxed, liberal sort of, they were more accepting, maybe that's the right word, of females trying to get into that sort of profession?
Well, not if there was only three of us.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, maybe there were a couple more, but those are the ones that I remember sort of went somewhere and stood out, you know. Um, it was hard because, like, when we were going to school at UCLA back in those days, women would think, oh, maybe when I get out of school, I could be a script supervisor or I could be an editor, you know, or assistant editor and bring the real editor coffee and shit like that, you know. Uh, but you know, I never even imagined I could be a director back then. Yeah.
okay. Actually, women, that's a good point. Women that got into film usually started off as editors. That was where they excelled back in the 30s and 40s, I believe, because they were so meticulous in what they were doing, where the men were very laissez-faire, or whatever you want to call it. And I'm sure you know about that, right?
Yeah, I have different words for it, but it is cool. Laissez-faire works.
All right. Okay, good. All right.
Arrogant shithead. No, I'm just kidding. Uh,
All right. So, you're kind of making your way. What was your first production that you did that you're proud of that got some sort of traction?
that I directed, you mean,
Yes,
Jimmy?
yes, that you
Well,
directed.
it's The Decline of Western Civilization. Actually, you know what? Check this out. Freaky. When I was at UCLA, I did 7 short films. And you're only supposed to do 3, but I kept making little films on the side. So now the Whitney Museum in New York is showing one of my short films next year. And the Academy of Motion Pictures made a program and included another film I did, which was about an hour long. And so 8 short films I did there. So I did direct before those, obviously before I did The First Decline. But The First Decline was 79. I started shooting. Yeah.
What was the inspiration for the first Decline movie? And
Well,
for everybody who doesn't know, it was a punk rock. It was a scene, a West Coast punk rock scene at the time.
right. I had always been totally into music growing up. I was into music because I had a pretty rough upbringing, and whenever I felt bad and had to go hide from a nasty stepfather, I would be listening to rock and roll, and so it was my cozy blanket to hide away from the world. You can probably, a lot of people can relate to that, I think. Um, and then when I saw punk rock start happening in the mid 70s, 76, 77 in Los Angeles, and listened to the Sex Pistols and started going to punk shows, I thought, you know what, I got to document this because I know how to make movies. And I had started a company called Rock and Reel, which was the first
Mm-hmm.
music video company here in Los Angeles. And I had equipment from the record companies, so I would shoot the record company videos during the day, and then at night I would go out to the clubs and borrow their equipment and shoot some punk bands.
What was the budget on Decline One?
$112,000.
Let's see. Today that would be about $400,000, I
Probably,
guess.
yeah.
Did you have to borrow that?
Um, No, there was a friend of mine. He said that he knew this guy that had made a bunch of money, just in various businesses, and he wanted to make a porno movie, and would I direct it? And I said, absolutely not, but maybe he'd like to go to a couple of punk rock shows with me, and I'll tell him what I got in mind. His name is Jeff Prettyman, God bless him. And he got my career started because he financed the film. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you look back now, I've seen the film many times, the first one. Do you think that, I did it? I captured that. That is a snapshot of what it was like back in '79.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that? Do you think that
Oh,
it
yeah.
did capture it?
I tried, I mean, I don't think I did it 1,000% correctly in retrospect, because some of the bands that we included were not really hardcore punk rock, I mean, I don't think X is, uh, people always refer to X and bands like the Ramones and Clash and those kind of bands as punk rock, but for me, I have a different definition, and I like to think that they're not, punk bands are not so melodic as the bands that I just mentioned, and their lyrics are a lot more aggressive, assertive, and in your face than rocking the Casbah. You know what I'm saying? And
what did what did
treble.
what did you learn from that experience of like Decline Part One that you carried to your next projects?
Well, I think what I learned was it ain't over till it's over, because that film, when it first came out, was banned in the city of Los Angeles because there were riots going on for people trying to see the film. And so when I say it ain't over till it's over, well, it's in the Library of Congress National Film Registry now. So,
Wow.
yeah, my dog is barking. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I see your
Did you
cat
hear
in
it?
the background too, but she
I
seems, or
got a little
he
cat
seems.
back there.
Yeah, yeah, that's okay. It's nice. Um, so the success of the first Decline, so now LA's changing, or at least that scene, or the Sunset Strip is changing. It's turning more into heavy metal. Of course, there is a bigger gap between '79 to '88, right? There's all
Yeah.
that. That's what's going on in your head. Oh man, I got to capture this now. Is that what's happening? Like you're saying, somebody needs to capture this moment right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. That's exactly what I thought. And the fact of the matter is, people think that a woman director can, I mean, I didn't have a Wayne's World hit at that point, right? So I just had my couple of independent films behind me and the first Decline behind me. So when Decline 2 presented itself as an opportunity, I grabbed it, and it came at a time where that was the most popular music here on the Strip in LA. And the budgets I worked with, I couldn't be flying all over the place. And the people that I was working with were totally infatuated with glam metal and the hair bands. And that's what was happening at the moment that I was able to get Decline 2 started, So if I would have been asked a year later by Paul Collishman, who is the one that actually started Decline 2,
Mm-hmm.
what movie would you do if you could do any movie, Penelope? If that would have been a year later, the music would have been totally different, you know?
It's true. It's true. But if it would have been a little sooner, it would have been a little different as well, right? Because
That's
it was
right.
less.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's right.
It would have been a little more grassroots instead of, well, more Van Halen, I guess,
Yeah, yeah.
than glammy and hairy. But Stevie Rachelle, by the way, says hi from
Oh, I
Tough.
love Stevie. I should put them Tough in the movie, huh?
Well, they are in the movie, right? In decline. They're in decline
Well, they're
too.
not performing though.
They're not performing. Okay, which is a good segue to the next part. You're making this movie. How did you decide, okay, this band is going to perform, this band is going to be interviewed? How did you make your decision of who you're going to cast as your sort of your talking heads or your performances? How did you come to that
Well,
conclusion?
that's a really good question, Jimmy, and I have a really good answer. Um,
Whoever. Is that it?
the fact of the matter is, when I did the first decline,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I wanted to showcase unknown bands, you know, and then I wanted to stick with that for the second and third one, is to showcase unknown bands. And at that point, there weren't a lot of music TV shows and certainly no music movies going on. And so we were able to, hey, oh, Gene Simmons, do you think you could just do an interview with Penelope? Because I knew Gene already, and I knew Ozzy for 20 years before we did Decline 2. And, I knew most of the large or the high profile names in the film. And we were able to just call them up and say, could we interview you? But the purpose of the Decline films is to show unknown bands,
Well,
Yeah.
you know what? But I mean, the whole name of the film, Decline of the Western Civilization, in a sense, it's kind of clever, but in another way, it's kind of when I first heard the title when I was a teenager, I go, "What are they making fun of?" Us metalheads at the time. But what was your thinking behind the title? Badass.
Well, I think it just fit because in the first Decline, um, it was such a huge change in music, and not only music, but in the culture, in people's attitude, in fashion, and it reached a lot of different levels. And it felt like punk rock was trying to tear down tradition, and they were, and they did, and thank God, because everything has to change, always. We're in flux here on this here planet. But so I felt like the decline of Western civilization was appropriate, because everything has a beginning, middle, and end, and even the Roman Empire ate it. You know what I mean?
Well, it's a cultural shift. All three
Oh
declines,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
especially 1 and 2, and I get that. And it's sort of like an outcast type of title, like here we are, this little minority, this subculture group, and we're in your face.
And we're going to change the world.
And we're going to change the world, but then that shifts to something else. And then they say they want to change the world,
That's
and
right.
it shifts to something else.
That's the way it goes.
That's the way it goes. Let's talk about the characters in Decline Part 2. Kiss, Gene Simmons, and Paul Stanley. Okay, you have Gene as the wise man with the wise ideas, and he's like I wouldn't say in your face, but he's warts and all, let's say. Whatever he says is, this is how it is. These are my words of wisdom. What was your thinking when you filmed him?
Well, I actually thought, see, Gene Simmons is remarkably intelligent. I don't think people really understand that. He kind of acts stupid sometimes, but he's really flipping smart. And so is Paul, I thought the thing to do would be to have the subject choose the location that they were going to be filmed in. So I said to Paul, where do you want me to film you? And he said, in bed with 3 girls, or was it 4? I don't remember.
5 or 6, maybe.
I don't know. It's like a bunch of chicks in a bed, okay? And then Gene said he just didn't want to do anything tacky. And I said, well, what do you want to do? And he said, well, how about we film me with a bunch of chicks walking around trashy lingerie? I said, Oh, great. So we won't do anything tacky, but we'll do that. Yeah. I love those guys.
But I mean, it's quite the opposite, right? Paul's lying in bed, sort of projecting the sort of young male fantasy, right? Where
Right.
Jane is standing in some sort of store,
Underwear
giving the word,
store.
okay, giving some words of wisdom.
Right. It's.
Right, right. All
Well,
right,
that's
let's
why
talk.
they're a great team. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
they really balance each other out, you know?
How about the bands like Odin and Seduce, who kind of were there, but today we can see they clearly never went the distance. Did they really, like, tell me about those bands, why you included them?
Well, at the time, Odin, Randy O, the singer, was, he was considered the hottest thing on the strip at that time. Okay, you got Bill Gazzari calling him, he's a sexy guy, you know, yeah, foxy dude. Anyway, um, so Randy and Odin, we all thought we're going to make it. They certainly thought they were going to make it. Seduce, I will say, wasn't one of my top choices for inclusion in the film because they weren't from LA even, and most of the bands were. That was one of my rules, but they were represented by the guy that financed the film. So it's just like in the music business, you got to include one of their unknown bands if you want to get blah, blah, you know? If you want to
Yeah.
get the money to make your movie, you got to put Seduce in it. So there you go. Not to put those dudes down, but I thought they had some interesting things to say, whatever.
So, and then going back to the original question I asked you on the other movie, do you think that it captured a snapshot of what it was like, not only in the West Coast, but globally? There was posers, there are people who want to make it, there's big names, there's bands that did make it.
Mhm.
Looking back now, do you go, you know what? I captured that moment.
Well, that moment, Jimmy, I did capture. Would I have preferred to capture a different moment?
Well, that's a good
I,
question.
yeah. Thank you. I asked myself a good question.
You don't need me. You
I
don't
interviewed.
need me.
I don't need you, man. No. But if I would have, had my choice, and I didn't have a choice, okay, I had to do it when I had to do it, and that's the bands that were popular at that time. And so, if I would have had my choice, I would have waited a little while because, I had to fight to get Megadeth into the end of that movie. They're a more serious band. They're a more hardcore, aggressive band. They're more, in a way, sophisticated musically, and so if I would have waited, I would have had a lot of more hardcore bands in there.
Well, I mean, there's Metallica, right? Were they asked?
Oops, hold on.
We're not allowed to show the Metallica? What?
Good Lord. Hi, I'm doing an interview right now. May I call you back?
No, I just want to confirm your appointment Monday at 8:30.
You got it.
See you then.
All right, we're good. It's all good. It's all
Hi,
good.
sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. Sometime, and if you need to pee break, you go for a pee break, come back. It's all
I'll have
good.
a cup of coffee. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Megadeth. So Megadeth's at the end of the film. Now, someone pointed this out to me the other day. They go, you have all this hair, but lurking, coming out now. Here comes the thrash. The scene is changing once again.
That's right.
Is that purposely put at the end of the film to say, you know what, these guys are kind of fading out, but
Yeah.
these new guys are coming in?
Very good observation on your behalf, and also whoever said that, because that was exactly what was going on, and the urban myth, which is actually fact, is that Guns N' Roses was supposed to be the final act in Decline 2. But
Okay.
Slash and I were working on it, putting everything together.
Mm-hmm.
And the day before we were going to shoot, their manager said, I want to go see where you're going to shoot. So I took him down the soundstage. It looked great, blah, blah. And we knew which songs we were going to do, blah, blah. Welcome to the jungle. And so We thought he had it worked out. And at the last minute, the bastard said, I'm pulling him. You can't shoot him. And he knew, I mean, he's a smart manager, but he knew that once you're on a roll with a band, you don't go take a chance. That could have been it. He doesn't know what this movie's going to be,
Yeah.
I understand why he did it, but pissed me off really bad. But then I got Megadeth, and I had worked with Dave and the band before, Dave Ellison, Dave Mustaine, and it was all those dudes. And I had worked with them before for Wes Craven movie. I did a Shocker video, and I also shot one of their great songs, Wake Up Dead, as a video. And if you look at Wake Up Dead on YouTube or something, you can see so many elements of visuals that would be integrated into MTV metal videos for years. The chain link fence and so many different things. I won't even tell you. But
well, no, we all know about it, especially in my age group, because that was the video. That was the video that sort of spoke to us, right?
Mhm.
You have like the fans around the cages. I mean, that's the one that those are the images that were imprinted in our brains as young teenagers.
Wow.
So good for you. Good for you.
Good for you for remembering those details too. Thank you.
All right. So what about Metallica? I mean, okay, there was Megadeth, but there was Metallica first, sort of like.
Well, Dave was in Metallica, and then that all fell apart. So I couldn't have both of them in the movie. I didn't. Metallica was actually taken off pretty heavy duty, like Guns N' Roses at that time. So it's like trying to get the president to sit down and have a cup of coffee. So anyway.
Right. What about Ozzy? You know what's great about Ozzy? That scene when he's cooking.
A lot of things.
Okay. What's amazing, I just rewatched it, right? To remember what that scene was like. Okay. He's funny, and he actually gives a complete history in about a few minutes of basically Black Sabbath and where he is today. If you really listen to it carefully, he's funny about it, and he's informative, and he just summarized everything pretty nicely. You're there in the kitchen. People are saying you kind of exaggerated some shots. What happened in that scene?
Well, there's a bunch of questions in there, my man.
All right. But feel free. Go ahead.
I'll try to work with them.
Okay.
I had known Ozzy and Sharon for a long time before I did Decline 2. And I used to go to all the concerts, both the Ozzy band and the Sabbath and whatever. And before Ozzy goes on stage, he's really nervous. Okay. And so he's got like all these vaporizers and things around, and he's got people trying to calm him down. And Sharon would always say, there'd be a line of people down the hall. Penelope, come in and please make Ozzy feel better. You calm him down so much. And so I would go in before the shows and, hey man, chill and blah, blah, blah. And so I knew him, and we were actually going to make a movie together. It was called Shooting Stars, and it was a producer named David Beagleman. And it never happened because Beagleman said, Ozzy isn't funny. And I said, because it was comedy. And I said, well, Ozzy is hilarious. He goes, no, he bites heads off bats and blah, blah, blah. And I'm saying, no, the guy is hilarious. He thought it was a rubber bat. Please, let's do the movie. But it didn't happen. And to this day, when I walk in a room and Ozzy is there, see, David Beagleman, I hate to say, but he, boom, killed himself because he had some money troubles. Okay. Don't ever do that, kids. Okay. No. But today, if Ozzy and I were together, the first thing, why did that producer kill himself? Because he couldn't make our movie. I'm like, no, that's not why he did it, man.
Are you in any talks with Ozzy? Well, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah,
not too long ago. Yeah, we'll talk about that after this.
Okay.
So Ozzy scene, like, let's just talk about that scene. You're filming. What are your thoughts after you finish shooting it or during?
Well, I thought he did a great job. I mean, I thought he's a really bad cook. I mean, you don't put butter in a pan with bacon. First of all, I mean, Ozzy doesn't cook, let's face it. So that's why it was funny. Uh, and yes, I did fake the orange juice scene. So let's just get that off the table right now. After he walked out of the room, I took that robe thing, kimono that he was wearing, and put it on a grip and had him miss the glass, because I knew that moment when he was talking about we took everything, Valium and some smoke and and I knew right then if I had him miss the glass, it would be perfect. So that I did fake. I'll cop to it. Put me in movie jail. But you know, Ozzy's a genius in my opinion. You know, I don't know. I mean, he's really not, he's so street smart and so common sense smart. It's not like he's, you know, gonna go teach math at Princeton or some shit, but you know, the dude is smart, you know.
Who did you want in the film other than Guns N' Roses that you didn't get? Okay, there was the Metallica, Guns N' Roses, but who else did you want? I mean, you got Ozzy, you got Alice Cooper. I mean, who else did you want that represented that time?
I was shocked that we got those guys, you know. I will say for Decline One, I felt bad that we didn't shoot the Screamers and the Weirdos and the Plugs and Gun Club and so many great punk bands back then. That's what I really feel bad about, because nobody else was shooting, you know, and they didn't get documented. So, but as far as Decline 2 goes, and the high profile interviewed subjects, I think we knocked it out of the ballpark. But you know, a lot of people gripe about the bands that played, but you know, screw them.
What about the I think I spoke to Jeff Duncan from Odin, but now an Armored Saint. And he said, man, there was a lot of people who were saying they were going to make it in that movie that didn't even play in a band.
And what?
They didn't even play in a band. Yeah. But I mean, that's kind of like how it was everywhere in North America. There was people, you know, pretending they were in a band. They looked like they played in a band, but they weren't in a band.
Well, I think it was the beginning of that. You know what? I just thought of this. It's the seed and the beginning of the Kardashian syndrome. Okay? It's like, I'm going to make it. I'm going to be rich, and that's going to make me happy. Well, guess what? It don't. Okay? And so to have that as a goal in life, it to me is so sad, you know? And to see, you know, young people running around trying to emulate the Kardashians and make their money and be billionaires and all. Please, that's not what life's all about. But I guess they got to go down the road and find out, you know. Money don't make you happy.
That's how you think today, right? But at the time when you were shooting them, what were you thinking? You're saying, man, do you really think? Did you think maybe these people will make it? That's a really good
question, and I kind of felt the same way because I had been in the movie business or around the scene long enough to know that the people who did make it and who were high profile, their lives were so complex and in a way disappointing and sad, you know? And so when I heard these kids saying, I'm just gonna make it no matter what, because if I think it, it'll happen. That was the concept. If I think that I'm gonna be rich and famous, then it'll happen. Well, no, that didn't happen.
So let me ask you, you've been around all these people who have made it and who haven't made it. What do you think is the common denominator for the ones who do make it? And what I mean by make it, you know, we're talking about, you know, Guns N' Roses level, let's say. Oh, there's a phone.
I'm really sorry. I don't know how to.
It's okay. It's all right.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't talk. I'll call you back. Thank you. Bye-bye. Let me see if I can turn this thing off. Gee, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I'll throw it in the bedroom. Hold on a minute. I'll just throw it.
All right, no problem. There you go.
Damn phone. Okay.
It's all good.
But
Don't worry about it. It's okay. Okay. I'm all about the reality.
well, I hope I remember where I put that phone. But anyway,
Just dial it on another number
I
and
know,
you'll find it.
right?
There you go.
Call myself on my cell phone.
All right. So where were we? Somebody called you. You tossed the phone in the bedroom. Then where we were at. What is the common denominator that you think of the band? And this is something for the young bands today, right? What is that common denominator? The bands who actually do make it and the ones who think they can make it by just thinking they can make it. What? Maybe I should rephrase that. The common denominator of artists who actually do make it.
Well, it sounds like I'm encouraging people to find that as a first goal in life. If I try to solve that, and give you that answer. And I don't recommend that as a first goal in life, mind you. I recommend I always say, either you're a musician or you're not. And a lot of those people in decline too, as you mentioned, they weren't even magicians. They weren't even musicians, but they wanted to make it and be rich and famous, it's somehow so wrong. But a common denominator, to try and answer your question, is obviously songwriting ability, musicianship, knowing how to play your instrument. But the most important thing, I think, is songwriting ability, and when the songs come from the heart. I mean, that's why my films that did well, because they came from the heart. The Decline movies, Suburbia, and Wayne's, they all are something that I did not to make money. I didn't make those movies to make money. And, the minute I did start to try to make a movie just to make money, it went down the drain. So that's why I know it don't work. It's not a good motivation.
Were you spending 14 hours a day thinking about it, preparing the scenes? Did it become your life when you're doing Decline too?
Well, when I do any movie, it's my life. I have a daughter, Anna, and she, I always feel guilty because she's like, Mom, I really liked it that you used to put me on the stage when Fear was playing, or, because you made me stay on the stage so you didn't lose me in the crowd. So my daughter at, young age was always there, but it was very, and I left her in an editing room one time and it got locked out of the building. I mean, it's like, making movies, it's really hard, and very, very all encompassing and time consuming.
So the common denominator in every industry, I think, is perseverance. And hard work.
Yeah.
When you immerse yourself completely in anything, somewhere, somehow you'll come up on top. I don't know what that level is, but
you sound like those guys in the hot tub.
No, they were just thinking it. I do it.
Okay.
All right. So let's talk about it. Everybody keeps asking about the Chris Holmes scene, the pool scene, the famous pool scene that put the movie on the map because, my friends came back from watching it in the theater and they go, "Oh my God, you should see this movie. It's about metal." I go, "Great." There was never any documentary about metal up until then, or if there was, it was very low budget. And they go, "You got to see this pool scene with Wasp, Chris Holmes." That was the scene that made him infamous, right? I mean, you shot it. When you shot it, as you were shooting it, what were you thinking? What were you feeling? Oh, I got something great here.
Honestly, when I was shooting that scene in the pool with Chris Holmes, I knew Chris before we did the movie, obviously, and I knew his mom and Sandy. And I asked her to come along because I got along with her and I liked her. But I honestly, when I shot that scene, I thought it was just no good. It didn't work. And I took the cameraman, Jeff Zimmerman, behind a tree. And I'm like, dude, we didn't get it. You know, we don't have this scene in the, we don't, you know, 'cause I asked Blackie to, if I could interview him, and he didn't want to do it because he's too cool or something. I don't know what. But anyway, so then I asked Chris, because I knew Chris already, you know, too. And I knew Blackie, but whatever. I'm dropping names.
It's okay.
Anyway, I thought, we didn't get it. And then I went to the financier and I said, after the whole thing is over with, I said, could we reshoot that scene because it didn't work? Now, you're right. It is the scene in Decline 2 that everybody says and remembers and thinks of first. So you never know. You know, I tried, they said, oh, you go cut it together, try to make it work. I'm like, oh, he screwed up. I couldn't do it. But yeah.
Did you show Blackie the scene after that?
Well, I'm sure he saw it, you know.
Well, maybe called you up. I don't know. What were his thoughts on it? I don't know.
No, I only saw Blackie walking around the rainbow and shit like that, you know. It was
Okay.
like, and my boyfriend looked just like him, only better looking. And everybody used to get him mixed up with Blackie. But, you know, I feel bad because Chris thinks he didn't get paid for
Wait,
doing
we're gonna get to that. Like Chris has told me, like, you know, on the show, like, and he's told, you know, others, you know, I don't think he has any malice towards you or anything like that. I just want my money. I want to get paid.
He does. I don't know. I mean, I feel bad that I think he feels that we didn't pay him, but I'll tell you something. Okay, check this out. There was a club called FM Station over in the Valley, and I don't know, a little while after we did the film, I hear somebody yelling my name, and I look around, and Chris, you can find him in the crowd because he's like 6'5", right, or whatever. And it's Chris, and he's gone, hey, Penelope, how come you didn't pay me for doing your movie? And I said, I did pay you, man. You were too drunk to remember you got the check. And that was the first I heard that he thought he didn't get paid. But you see, the thing is, the director doesn't pay the actors, the people in the movie, the production manager or the producers pay them. And every time we filmed, the producers or the production manager walked over, hand them a check. You have to do that or it's not legal for even to be filming them, you know? So we did pay him.
Okay. I'm just going to say this. I wasn't there, right? So I'm just this neutral party here. Did the producer confirm to you that Chris was paid, or were you there when he got paid?
I wasn't there, but they said he paid him.
Okay, maybe there's a miscommunication. That's what I'm getting at. Maybe there's a miscommunication. That's all. You know, it's or misunderstanding, we shall say, right?
I think so.
Okay, yeah. All right. Do you ever see? Look, I'm Chris's good friend. So have you seen Chris's documentary, Mean Man?
I heard about it. Yeah,
the story of Chris
cool.
Holmes.
Yeah,
Chris is the coolest dude. Chris is the coolest dude. And you know what's great about Chris? He's so honest.
Huh?
He's so honest.
Exactly.
He's so honest, and he's brutally honest. And I guess he really believes he didn't get paid. And I wasn't there, okay, but I believe him. I believe you. You know, there's you know.
What I'd like to do to straighten it all out, to be honest with you, would be to pay him again. That's what I'd like to do.
Okay. So you're saying,
huh?
No, I can mediate this.
Okay.
You're saying you're going to write him a check for whatever the amount.
$300. Yeah.
So you're saying you're going to write him a check for $300. So this way there's closure. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Cause I don't want him to, you know, feel bad or think that I gypped him or whatever, or say things bad because he thinks that I'm a bad person. I'm not, you know, I'd be happy to pay him $300 again. No problem.
I'm the witness here. I'm the witness.
Send you the check and you could, I don't know how to reach
Yes. You could send me the check or I can give you, you know, his wife's, his manager, Kathy. You could send it directly to her.
Let me just send it to you and I'll make it out I just need to know who to make the check out to.
And I'll
That's
get
all.
that information to you after the show.
Okay.
But I think
Sure.
that's, you know what? I think, that's a wonderful thing that you're doing. You're closing that chapter.
Well,
You're,
I've done
you're,
well in this
yeah.
business. I don't make movies anymore. I don't want to make movies anymore, but I still get checks for Wayne's World. So I'll give $300 to Chris Holmes. It's fine. I just don't want him to feel bad.
That's nice of you. That's very sweet of you. Okay, good. I'm sure Chris will be very happy. I love Chris. To me, I'm his biggest
I do
fan.
too.
He's the coolest dude ever.
Yeah. Actually,
Okay.
actually, back when I knew him,
Mhm.
before we made the movie, I was actually thinking, God, I'd love to have that guy for my boyfriend, But I think back in those days, those guys, I swear to God, I did that. I did think that. But back in the day, those guys always liked strippers and, big boob blondes and stuff. That was the deal. Oh, and younger girls too. So I didn't fit the mold, but whatever. That's how much I like Chris. I wished he was my boyfriend.
Okay. I love your humor.
Sorry.
You great
Huh?
sense of humor.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm sure you're being honest.
Yeah.
All
No,
right.
he's definitely my type.
What would you like to close on in regards to the decline of Western civilization, part 2? What are your final thoughts on just that? We'll talk about Wayne's World next, but what maybe you could have done something differently. Yeah, you're happy of what you did. You'd like to do a part 4, perhaps, on metal. What are your closing thoughts on it? It's a lot of questions.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm not really good at looking back. As a matter of fact, I never even watch my old movies. But I will say this: I did go to the Motion Picture Academy Museum because they screened "We Sold Our Souls for Rock and Roll"
Okay.
recently, which is a movie that I did with Sharon and Ozzy 20 years ago, and it was never released. And it has Black Sabbath, original Black Sabbath, and Slipknot, Rob Zombie, System of a Down. It's got Godsmack, Fear Factory, 10 bands in it with Buckethead playing guitar in a cemetery. Okay. And it's a great film. And Sharon says she's going to release it now after 20 years.
That's what I was going to ask you. It was shot 20 years ago. It was Ozfest.
Yes,
Right?
it was.
Yes.
I went on a tour bus and went to like 30 cities and filmed all the 10 bands. Yeah. So
Okay.
it's really in my opinion, my best documentary. No, Decline 3 is. But anyway, my second best documentary is We Sold Our Souls for Rock and Roll. And Sharon says she's going to release it soon.
So what's the premise? You're capturing the bands backstage, hanging out, performing. Is sort of like it's like being in Ozfest?
It's like you are going on tour on the Ozfest and you're seeing all these bands. And I respect the bands. Slayer is in the movie. Whatever city we went to, like for example, San Francisco, we were there. And I went, oh, where can I film Slayer? Alcatraz. Okay. Oh, Slipknot. We're in DC. Where can I film Slipknot? The National Monument. So you see Slipknot walking around at the National Monument in front of Abraham Lincoln. And I put them in different locations, and I went backstage with all the bands and Ozzy, a lot of stuff with Ozzy backstage. I think, look, you don't know what it was like to work I worked 3 years on that movie and it never got released. I used to wake up in the morning, lay in bed, cry for half an hour before I get out of bed because I never got the movie released. And now, it's a historical document at this point, of 1999 Ozfest. Yeah.
Wow. That sounds really cool. So is this going into the theaters? Is this streaming? Where can people actually see it?
Well, I don't know because
yet?
I hesitate to bother Sharon right now. She's, got a lot of things on her plate right now. So I am gonna get in touch next week though, and do whatever I can to help her get the movie out, you know.
Well, sounds amazing. I'm looking forward to that. Um, you told me that you might be considering a part 4 of Decline. With that,
Yeah,
what
you see that computer over there?
it's got Decline 4 on it?
It's got, yeah, well, the makings of, let's put it that way. I've just been really busy managing all my properties and everything, and I really need to get back to doing that movie and another documentary. And I also wrote a book about my movie career. So,
Oh, that's amazing. When's that going to be out?
oh, I don't know. I can't figure out the title. I can't figure out the title, so I can't submit it to publishers. But
Got to have Decline in there somehow. You got to wiggle in
well, my
Decline.
partner, Simon Abrams is his name. He's a New York reporter. And he helped me write it. And he said we should call it The Decline of Penelope's World.
I like that. That's a
I don't
great
know.
title. That's a great title. I like that a lot. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. So, what in what genre is that focusing on part 4, or you don't want to reveal that yet?
Oh, I can't tell you that.
It's not gonna be like Taylor Swift or anything. It's not gonna be
No.
dokey doke. Okay.
Mama don't do that.
Okay. All right. So, okay, that's a surprise. All right. Let's kind of like on the last topic. Let's just talk about Wayne's World and this. It just out of nowhere success. You know, these characters in 1992, 2 metalheads in the basement playing air guitar, or kind of playing air guitar. What brought you to direct that movie? I mean, what was it, something you wanted to do, or is it just sort of, you know,
No,
hey,
I mean, I always took whatever job I could get. It's not
Right.
like, you know, I'm not Martin Scorsese or, you know, Michael Bay, where I could go to the studio and say, give me a check for 100 million. I want to make a movie about blah, blah. That's don't happen with women. You know, I take whatever movie I can get, you know. So I forgot what you were saying. That's one of my bitches. Go ahead.
Okay, basically you answered the question because you said you'll
Oh, I
just
did?
take. So they go, hey, do you want to do Wayne's World? Sure, no problem. Is that
Exactly. You know, I'm
how
like,
much? Okay, thank you.
if I
Write the
did
check. There we
Wayne's
go.
World, I could get my foot into the studio doors. Okay, because I never had done a studio movie before Wayne's World. It was my first one, you know. So it was like, yeah, oh, and I got in the Directors Guild and I got in the Motion Picture Academy, and all of a sudden I wasn't the outcast dipshit that made punk rock movies. I was Penelope Spheeris, head of the box office for 2 weekends or whatever it was, you know. And that's how come I know that money and success doesn't answer all questions, you know what I mean, and doesn't make you happy, because really, you know, family, doing good work, helping people, saving animals, that is what life's all about, you know.
Strange enough, in 1992, I had a TV access, cable
The
access
cable
show.
show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of, it wasn't the same as Wayne's World, but I had a cable access show, and man, did that hit home with me. You know, like metal, like,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the same
Yeah.
age, more or less. And it's just, wow, it really
People
hit
kept
home.
saying when we started doing the movie, the studio, the producers, Lorne Michaels, the writers, Mike Myers, everybody said, Penelope, do you really think that you can make this 5-minute cable TV skit into a feature-length movie? And I said, I am absolutely certain I can do it. And you know what? I wasn't sure at all.
Well, you gotta act that way. Yeah. You gotta sell it. You gotta sell the sizzle.
Yeah, I'm like, yes, man, I could do it, you know. But I didn't have any idea it was going to go through the roof like it did. None of us did. You know?
How much ad-libbing was there in the script?
Well, what I would do is I would shoot the script, and then if we had time before we had to move to a new scene, Mike and Dana would constantly go, I can do it better. Can we do this? Can we do that? Can we pull licorice out of the car roof? Blah, blah, blah. You know, and I'm like, well, if we got time, I'll shoot some more stuff. And that whole scene, the last day of the movie was them laying on the roof of the car with the plane going over. and they were totally ad-libbing right then. And I just let the camera roll, because there was a limo waiting outside to take him to the airport to go back to Saturday Night Live. And I was get as much footage as I can,
How much of a headbanging scene with Bohemian Rhapsody was you versus them, the actors?
I'm going to have to take credit for that, because I put that exact same scene in another movie called Dudes, and not with the same song,
Yeah.
but with Flea and John Cryer in a little Volkswagen going across the desert singing Hava Nagila Hava, that Jewish folk song. And so I knew it was going to work, but Mike didn't believe it was going to work at all. And I will say, though, just to be fair, that the song itself was written into the script. I didn't say we got to use Bohemian Rhapsody there, but I'm the one that orchestrated the way it was shot. Obviously, I'm the director,
It's so amazing. Where did you come up with, we'll headbang in the car? Was it just because you're around the Sunset Strip?
Yeah, because that's what we used to do.
That's it.
When we were really feeling good, we'd be in the car banging our heads. I was driving an 86 IROC, That's what we did. Yeah.
It's so amazing because if the pool scene was the scene in decline, then that scene with Bohemian Rhapsody, the headbanging,
that's right,
was the money scene that sort of every guy, especially my age, or even girls too, but people sort of are my generation, and I guess your generation as well. Right away, it just you knocked it out of the park. It hit home.
Yeah, those two are the ones. Yeah.
Why didn't you do Wayne's World Part 2?
Because Mike didn't want me to, because I wouldn't do the changes that he. See, it's not his fault. The fact of the matter is, it's his fault he didn't hire me or the studio didn't hire me for 2.
It is his fault.
Well, his dad had passed away, and he wasn't there when we had our test screening.
Right.
Okay, so he didn't know that it really worked the way it was. And he came back and he gave me like 11 pages, single space notes.
Okay.
And I'm like, dude, I can't do that because it's going to screw up the movie. You want to cut out the scene with Laura Flynn Boyle popping over the car hood, when they were playing
Street Hockey.
Street, And so I said, I'm not going to do it. And the studio says, well, you're going to have to tell him, Penelope, because if we tell him, then he's not going to want to do Wayne's World 2. So I told him. And he said, you can't do Wayne's World 2. If you don't change it, you cannot do Wayne's World 2. I said, fine, I'm not changing it. You can imagine how much I cried when Wayne's World 2 bombed. Not.
I just watched Wayne's World again for the 20th time, but I just watched it recently. It's a funny film, man. And you know what?
Yeah, I don't have any hard feelings about it, and I hope Mike doesn't either. And I hope Chris doesn't have any bad feelings about the $300, but we're going to clear that up. So, I just want to walk away from this business with my head high and a lot of love in my heart for everybody I worked with.
Do you talk to Mike Myers today? He's Canadian, but do you talk to Mike Myers today?
I think that's the first time I said that word in this interview. No, I haven't spoken to Mike we had a screening at the Academy, but it's not like, no. Okay. I don't have any Hollywood friends. No? I have punk rock friends and, metalhead friends. That's my friends.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I don't have Hollywood friends. I don't like them.
No. Well, maybe that's what makes you special, and that's what makes your film so great.
That's what makes me not have that many friends, but whatever.
Is there anything you want to talk about, you want to promote, other than the book that you're kind of writing and the movie? Decline.
Huh?
Oh, you finished it. It's done. The book's done,
man. I did it during COVID.
Wow.
COVID. And the only thing I would say, is just that I hope We Sold Our Souls for Rock and Roll gets out there soon, means really a lot to me to have that movie out before I die. Really do. It really does. I mean, because it's like you never know if something's bad or good until some time has passed. That's my favorite saying. And, you know, back then I was brokenhearted that it didn't get released. But now it's better 20 years later.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
hopefully
Yeah.
she'll do it.
Yeah. Are you friends with Sharon Osbourne?
Oh, yeah, we're
Like you
friends.
so she's kind of like a Hollywood friend in a way.
She's more of a music friend to me. I don't think, you know, she's not like a movie person, you know.
Okay. Dana Carvey, do you ever speak to him?
No. Mm-mm.
I haven't
You
seen
can
him
name
much in
off
films.
a really long list. I don't have any Hollywood friends, honestly. I mean, I have well-known musician friends. I'm friends with Tom Morello,
There you go.
you know, but really Hollywood movie making friends, no.
Okay. All right.
It's a
Well,
kind of sleazy world.
you live in Hollywood, do you not? Around there?
That don't mean I like it, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, I've lived in Hollywood for 40 some years. Yeah.
Okay.
I did an interview and they used this phrase as the headliner, and then they put it everywhere where I said Hollywood can blow me. And yeah, it got printed everywhere. I know.
All right. And that's pretty much it. I
Okay.
mean, I know there's some questions here. They said, Fast Times, what did Penelope have to do with Fast Times at Ridgemont High, I guess?
I didn't do that movie.
You didn't do that
So
movie.
the answer is nothing.
So nothing. So she just watched it after, you know, she rented it.
People always think I did that movie. I didn't do it. Yeah.
Because I think there's a little touch of metal in there. I think there's maybe not metal, but Cheap Trick and hard rock. All right, that's pretty much it. You know, thank you so much. You know, I appreciate it. You know, it's a lovely chat. I know we went over 45 minutes. It's been like an hour.
We did? I'm out of here then. But do send me your address and who I should make my check out to for
Absolutely.
Christmas, okay?
Okay. Well,
Peace
Penelope,
out.
thank you so much.